recently purchased a Creality Ender 3, and so far I've been pretty impressed with it. The price point is probably about $180, maybe a little bit less, which is amazing for a printer like this. We've been doing 3D printing and working with the machines ever since they first came out, really. Here's a machine that we actually started building all the electronics and stripping it down from an older Stratasys machine. So we have some experience here, and I am so far very impressed with this machine. The detail in this machine is very good. It's been printing very well. This is one of the default items that comes on the machine, and it didn't come with enough filament actually to print the item that's already on the SD card, which I think they should have just enough filament to do that. But this is a little dog that they had with it, and the detail on it is quite impressive. I want to say that this was so easy to set up. It came in pieces, but I mean the majorities of it were assembled. Like the hot end here were assembled. Most of it was just bolting together this extruded aluminum, and that's all it was. Once we had everything assembled, plugged in all the wires, it was as simple as turning it on and putting in the SD card. That definitely surprised me. I know some machines take a lot of setup to get running and running well. This was basically putting it together, plugging it in, and then leveling the bed. Next, I'm going to run this bottom drawer print, and I'll show you the process of doing that. First, we'll click on the knob and go down to Prepare, and we'll start a preheat. And I think it's important to do this before you start your print, because I've had some problems with it not actually setting the right temperature in the file for the SD card, and it's not part of the slicing. So we'll hit main and then come back here, and then this should probably say SD, but this says print from TF, which means your micro SD card. And then we're going to scroll down. Those are the default models. I'm going to print the bottom drawer, and now it's going to start heating up. That's also one thing that I'm pretty impressed with on this machine. Everything heats up very quickly, the extruder heats up quickly, and that isn't very normal. Whenever I first booted into this file, it said the target temperature for the filament was 0 degrees. And I've had that problem before, and after letting it sit for like maybe 30 seconds, then it popped up to 200 degrees, which is where it's supposed to be. So I think maybe what happened is once the bed got the temperature, then it started heating up the extruder separately. And you can see just how fast it's actually counting up. Once this gets down to home, it's just going to go ahead and start printing, and the first beads that it's going to be laying down, you really want to watch. Make sure that it is sort of squishing the material. That's important. And it lays a bead down right here on the edge just to get the filament down to the nozzle and start extruding, and then it's going to do one liner on your part. And like in this case, the part's a little bit larger, so I'll get an idea of where the bed leveling is at on this side, this side, this side, and that side, all four corners, so that if it isn't like squashed down on one corner, okay, I think that might be okay here, but it needs to stick on the first layer. That's the most important. This is looking pretty good. See, if it was too high, it would lay the filament down, and it would start curing before it actually hit the bed. The plastic would start hardening, so it wouldn't stick, and then you get a lot of part warpage, which is something I've had before. See, on this piece here, it was printing, the bed was not level, so it really started to warp up on this corner, even with PLA, just because the bed wasn't level and it didn't stick. So this first layer is very important to watch. The Ender 3 uses a program called Ultimaker Cura, which is a slicing software, so you can import STLs and then it'll export them as G-code that the 3D printer can take. So once you have it installed and you've selected your Ender 3 model, we're going to go ahead and open up a file, and say you want to print this 5mm spacer. I'm going to open that up. This is for that drawer set. And this is a little, like a T-nut that fits inside the extruded aluminum tracks. There's some overhangs here, so it's going to need some support material. And going up here and the standard quality where you select your infill and stuff, I will check the support box. And then you can also select your infill. I think a 20 infill, the 20% infill is pretty good depending on what you're printing. So that's good. Once you have everything selected you'd like, positioning, everything, click slice down here at the corner. Now this is a very fast slicer, And it also gives you a time estimate. It says this should take about 6 minutes, which is a pretty quick print, and then you can save it to wherever you want on your computer. Whenever you save this to your file, it might be a little bit easier. Right here, it should show like a USB card or a USB, or if you're using an SD card, then you can just upload it straight to that, and you don't need to put it onto your computer, then copy the file over. If you're using the adapter that comes with the 3D printer that is USB, so I can like plug it in here, and then on the other end is SD. Some computers don't have an SD card, this computer doesn't, so I have to use the USB to SD card adapter, which works fine. So I can just upload it straight to that. This is one thing I was very impressed with that came with the machine. It's a USB to micro SD adapter, so I can plug this in just like a USB stick to the computer, and then the micro SD card that also came with the machine can be plugged in here. And if your computer doesn't have a micro SD card or a full-size SD card slot, you can use this. So that helps a lot. And then the micro SD card that came with the machine plugs in here. The machine is currently running, so I'm not going to take it out, but if you needed to remove the SD card, you can just push on it here and then it'll click and pop out. The print here looks like it's doing well. Once this gets all the way across, I'll be able to see if one side looks to be like more squished than the other. And then there's a certain amount of tolerance you can have if one side is still kind of pushed down. Like, you don't want it to be really squishing the material. You just want it to be sticking to the bed. So if this first layer seems to be too much, then I'll cancel the print, re-level the bed, and do it, because I don't want it to fail like this print did, because this was probably like 4 hours into the print, so it's best if you can catch it early. Right now we're about an hour and a half into the print, and everything seems to be doing fine. It seems to be sticking to the bed just as it should. And the print is finished after 8 hours and 40 minutes. So it's on the slow side, it's not the fastest printer, but it did do a great job. Something that makes it a lot easier to remove it from the bed is just to singularly preheat the bed. So we'll click the knob, go down to prepare, and then preheat PLA, and then you can just select preheat PLA bed, and it doesn't take too long for it to get up to temperature. Still a bit tough, as it always is. That just means you have good adhesion to the bed, which is definitely something you want to have. There it is. Beautiful. And that fits in perfectly. Look at that. This took a lot of time to print, but it's super cool. Before I can install this, I just need to remove the bearing here and then the control plate here, and it'll slide into the T-channels in the extruded aluminum. Now we'll slide this in place. Seems to be a good fit. With this in place, and it holds itself in there, so it's not going to slide around at all, we can go ahead and just put these pieces back on. And now we have a place to put our tools away, and this is just a great print. I like it. It makes the printer a little bit more complete. I like having the drawers here, but really this is a test. I printed for a pretty long time. The main case here printed overnight. Everything came out just fine. Of course, the first print that I did started warping, but that was due to not having the bed leveled correctly, which is definitely a problem, my fault, not anything to do with the printer. So I've been very impressed with it. There's a whole lot more good than bad on this machine. In fact, there's very little bad. I mean, I've only been using it for a week now, so I can't say too much, but time will tell if this thing really lasts and performs well. But so far, I've been printing PLA. It's been just working great. There's more modifications to do on this machine. That's one nice thing about this machine as well. There's just a big community around it. So there's lots of modifications and documentation and different things you can add to this machine to make it better.